Hello and welcome to Gameshock TV. Now, thanks to a centuries-old gypsy curse, I'm Chris Hewitt. But enough about me. Here's what's on today's show. The past comes back to haunt us with Zelda for the 3DS. It's Back to the Future with a roundup of the best games from E3. And we pull out the best releases from the last month. Every year, scores of people flock to an overcrowded and closed space with a power consumption roughly equal to that of 3 small countries combined. Why do they do this? Well, to gaze and wonder at gaming's bright future, of course, with everything from women in catsuits and swimming goggles to legitimate reasons to shout at your TV. Not this one, by the way. Here's a look at the great and good of this year's mad and manic E3. A plethora of action games is dominated by one in particular.
It's Batman!
A section playing as Catwoman is just a sexy cherry on an already voluptuous cake, taking in some brand new fighting moves and massive sandbox world. From Penguin's reimagining as a cockney hard man to the promise of a skin-headed Robin, it's going to be a long few months on our Bat calendar. Reboot may be a dirty word these days, but Tomb Raider seems like it'll be well worth the sacrilege. Scuffed, fragile and more realistically rendered, the new Lara is now more recognisably human and also less likely to suffer back pain in later life. The promise of genuine danger to our frightened amateur adventurer means this could be a new high for the classic franchise. More sequels flexing their guns included Call of Duty and a threequel triumvirate of Gears of War 3, Battlefield 3 and Uncharted 3. Nathan Drake's latest package Holiday from Hell has seen its multiplayer given a revamp, but we're promised plenty more from the story mode too, with some truly epic set pieces and an evil Helen Mirren, a smug PS3 owner's wet dream. Winner of a suitably infinite number of awards at E3, BioShock's newest mutation is a treat of roller coaster inspired action and stylish graphics. Set in the flying metropolis of Columbia, the game floats a complex morality system and plenty of ways for you to get your freak on. Figures and nostrums imbue your character with permanent powers and abilities, while you can also choose to gamble on unstable versions with less predictable results. For film nutsers, Gearbox's attempt to do the Alien franchise right with Aliens: Colonial Marines. 4-player drop-in co-op is as good a start as any, but it's still too early to say whether this will finally do justice to some of the most recognisable sound effects in history. Original games were thinner on the ground. A cross between a Mad Max shoot-'em-up and the recent Motorstorm Apocalypse, Rage set Pulse's racing, boasting tight controls, a mysteriously evolving storyline, and vehicular multiplayer, and a post-apocalyptic blast fest has potential Game of the Year written all over it. Singeing eyeballs and blowing minds across the conference, El Shaddai makes the Mona Lisa look like a cast member from the Only West Essex. We're not entirely sure what's going on, to be honest, but, well, just look at it. It's like an 80s Aha music video, but with violence. What more could you possibly want? RPG fans have a good few excuses to keep out of the sunlight too. For beautifully atmospheric swords and sorcery, there's Dark Souls, a natural successor to the supernaturally difficult Demon Souls. For those more into lasers than swords, Star Wars The Old Republic is almost upon us. A fully voiced MMO set 3,000 years before the films. There's supposedly enough dialogue in the game to fill 60 Star Wars novels and more than a few sleepless nights. Complex, adult, and with some amazing trailers, it's making George Lucas look more and more like a rank amateur with a green screen fixation. But console owners will be more interested in BioWare's other project. Mass Effect 3 sees Commander Shepard continue his epic battle against the Reapers. With a more intricate leveling up system for powers and weapons, it promises to be the best RPG shooter mashup since, well, Mass Effect 2. The story promises the return of either Ashley or Caden, the addition of Anderson to your squad, and the chance for Tali's mask removal to ignite your kinky alien fantasies. Microsoft were on standby to entice uninitiated gamers to the fold with some Kinect-only enhancements, such as focal squad commands and interactive dialogue to shout at the screen, because what gamers really need is another reason for the world to point and laugh.
I don't need her trust.
A more esoteric entry to the showcase was Papa and Yo, a curious little brain teaser about a little boy, his pet robot, and giant pink best friend. Combining emotional storylines and surreal touches, our hero must solve puzzles to help find a cure for his oversized best friend's addiction to frogs. an unfortunate craving that leads him to turn into his rampaging alter ego. A surprisingly layered experience. It's not out for a while, but in terms of originality, nothing else ran close. For those after an all-round cuter experience for their inner or outer child, the standouts were undoubtedly Super Mario 3DS, Sonic Generations, and Rayman Origins. Generations looks to be everything Sonic 4 should have been, had it actually been bothered. Meanwhile, Rayman popped a good few eyeballs with some of the most impressive and stylish graphics yet seen on consoles, and some gorgeously fluid animation to complement its addictive gameplay. Definitely one for Santa's list. On a similar theme, Microsoft's Kinect predominantly stuck to cute ways of chopping up virtual fruit or dancing on your own, something of a disappointment for those awaiting a truly hardcore motion control experience. A vaguely convincing Star Wars lightsaber game and a cartoony gunslinger did little to dispel the whiff of family fun. Solution? Well, get Christopher Lloyd to advertise a game called Fun Labs. Ooh, that sounds fun. Woo! Other hardware grabbed the bigger headlines. The PlayStation Vita, the PSP 2 by another name, paraded its fancy mix of button and touchpad gameplay with a great version of Uncharted, but the big talking point was obviously the Wii U, partly because no one really knew what to make of it. Essentially an HD Nintendo console for the more hardcore player, its intriguing gamepad took most of the headlines, with a multi-purpose control pad / screen for off-TV play, but a rather confused response as to how many the system would support. With Microsoft pimping the Kinect out to Mickey Mouse and Sony rumoured to be focusing on integrated motion control in its next console, the Wii U is an intriguing move and definitely one to watch. According to those wily old bawds at Nintendo, and who are we to argue, the 3DS heralds the future of gaming in the palm of your hand. And naturally, how they decided to highlight this? With a game that's over a decade old. So we took a look at the new, well, the old version of The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time to see if 3D could give nostalgia a good old polish. The 3DS launch lineup was something of a mixed bag, with Nintendo's iconic characters conspicuous by their absence. One of the big hitters makes a belated appearance in the shape of Link, the elfin star of The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D, a title that brings rejoicing to all journalists paid by the word. Originally released in 1998 on the Nintendo 64, the entire game has been magically squeezed into the portable console and given a stunning 3D makeover. The touchscreen is also fully utilised, enabling you to swap gear in a largely seamless fashion, as well as play the titular ocarina, a mystical time-shifting instrument. Essentially an action-adventure, there are also RPG elements that reward you with tangible skills and useful objects rather than reams of statistics. And while the game has been made slightly easier than the original, it's certainly no pushover. But even when it's been willfully frustrating, it's still a joy to behold, and even men with steel hearts can't help but be moved as the sun sets over Hyrule Field. Given an open world to explore, reams of side quests, and enough chicken chasing to satisfy the most rampant redneck, the fifth installment of the Zelda franchise leaves an indelible impression. For fans of the original, it's a nostalgic treat, and for those lucky enough to experience it for the first time, it's a magical journey and a landmark game. A much needed shot in the arm for the new console. If you only buy one classic game featuring a fairy boy in a green hat this year, make it The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D. Ka-ching! I don't know about you, but there's nothing I like more than wandering around the bowels of hell, bumping into my dead girlfriend, and shooting the breeze with a talking skull. So imagine my delight when I discovered there's a game in which you could do the same thing. Shadows of the Damned, Suda51's latest outlet for what was probably a fairly disturbed childhood, has finally arrived, and it's clearly mental. But is that a good mental or a bad mental? Well, Talking Skull, I'm glad you asked, and the answer to your question's coming right after this whoosh. Whoosh. Part Resident Evil, part Silent Hill, all out lobotomy, Shadows of the Damned is so grindhouse it could be the first accurate mapping of the inner recesses of Quentin Tarantino's mind. You play as a preposterously named Garcia Hotspur, demon-hunting badass, a mutant offspring of Benicio del Toro and Smallville Tom Welling. Setting the standard early on, our hero begins the game topless, tattooed, and laughingly mocked about the size of his weapon by a severely bleeding goat-headed demon. To make a bad day worse, Garcia is then witness to his girlfriend's unfortunate messy dismemberment before being introduced to Fleming, Hell's resident Big Bad, who of course laughingly mocks the size of his weapon. With Paula snatched into the depths of hell, it's a classic time-worn tale of boy meets girl, girl meets gruesome demise, boy befriends Skull, Skull becomes motorbike, and boy unwittingly confronts deep-seated penis envy. In Hell, there are rules of engagement that your gun, the in no way euphemistically named Johnson, kindly explains to you. Some enemies can only be dispatched in the light, meaning there's a constant battle to torch goat heads and ward off waves of devil spawn at the same time, and this is where the main problems lie. ADD camera angles and clunky outdated controls mean whooping ass is more frustrating and challenging than it should be. Likewise, boss battles aren't necessarily difficult, but are needlessly drawn out, with you continually having to shoot red energy sources to make them vulnerable. If you can get past this, Shadows is still a cracking game. Deluged with stylized colour washes, the game looks great, with particularly amusing attention to detail. Highlights include electro posters for Fleming, the only name on the ballot, and babyface demon doors that only open when fed particular treats, namely eyes, brains, and, logically, strawberries. The soundtrack pounds out a great accompaniment, and some of the support characters, including Johnson, are genuinely interesting, albeit disturbing. Wait until you hear your trusty sidekick retelling some fairy tales. Suda51 and Shinji Mikami have pulled some disparate elements into a funny and hellish whole, and given that it's set in hell, that's pretty much job done. It's loud, it's vulgar, it's violent, and it's unashamedly unapologetic, which is all part of the charm. It has its problems, and maybe it's a few years behind some of the games currently hitting the shelves, but Shadows of the Dam drags you into the story kicking and screaming, and doesn't let you go. Fans of WD-40 rejoice. Transformer-related mayhem is back, with Dark of the Moon hoovering up piles of cash and 2-star reviews the world over. And now the movie, of course, is a game. Following on from the surprisingly not crap War for Cybertron, we send Steve Hill to check out the latest brand of mutating metal mayhem. Now this is a bit where you think I'm going to say more than meets the eye, right? Well, no, I'm not going to do that, because it's just fighting robots, and that's a bit stupid. It's not Dostoevsky, is it? Although if Dostoevsky were a fighting robot, they could call him Optimus Crime and Punishment. Crime and Punishment, because Dostoevsky wrote it.
Hi, I'm Steve Hill. I'm here at Leicester Square in a comic shop designing a Decepticon. Strangest thing I've ever seen. When you draw a Transformer, I mean, is there a template? Are there certain parameters, or can you literally just let your imagination run wild?
It would depend. I mean, if you was to draw a new creation, yes, you can let your imagination go wild. However, when you are doing original existing characters, you need to keep it as close to the design as possible. There are parameters where you can slightly make alterations, artistic license, but they always have to represent that character.
I just have some kind of generic explosive stuff coming out of his cannon. I mean, how do you make a robot look, well, A, good, or B, evil?
Good. Red and blue, national flag colours, or evil, silver and sharp and spiky.
Red trunks. The vision is coming together now. You got a little look at the game here?
I have actually. I played it when I got in, and then he told me to get off because I should be drawing.
I did great. Not in art.
What do you think it is about transforming robots that...
I think every kid loves robots. I mean, if you look at culture and everything else, there's robots in everything, and with Transformers, they kind of tapped into a market at the time that became the biggest selling toy line for about 5 years.
He's holding a claw hammer. He doubles up as a builder.
I've just drawn a Decepticon. Would you like to give this kind of marks out of 10? Talk me through what I've done right, what I've done wrong.
I'd say this has got to be a 9.5 out of 10. You've got the evil red eyes. You've got the evil red pants, which makes it even more evil. You've got spikes, and you've got big feet so he doesn't fall over. So the big feet alone gave it the 9. The red pants was the half point.
It's a classic. Priceless, I mean worthless.
And if you want to find out if they've turned Transformers into something more than a steaming pile of scrap, stay tuned for part 2, coming right up after these words from our sponsors.